Okay. Um,
Give me 2 seconds. And go for it.
Hello and welcome, everybody, to another episode of In the Field here in the Reserve Pool Network. It is I, your host, Necromanticer, and right here along with me is my co-host, Isaac.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm great. I'm excited to see this matchup.
No, I totally agree. There's some really interesting things here on the field, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to be coming out on either side. From our left hand, we have Tado piloting his very own classy Wolverine team, as you can see by that snazzy little Wolverine include and some really high-level meta cards. And on the right-hand side, we have Jordan piloting his Hopeful Fire team. Firestorm. Human Torch has just not been working out for him, but we're going to be seeing how that goes for him in this next match coming up here.
Yeah, this looks like two very heavy meta team players here. We've got Green Goliath, we've got Formerly Weapon 10, we've got some Black Widow action, Constantine, Blue Eyes. We got some big hitters here playing on the board.
Most definitely. Like, there's some really, really big characters and some really small characters as well. Like, there's Serena on both sides, which is just fantastic. Wolverine is quick, early aggression. Constantine can help stall things out. There's just so many different options on either side. There's even a Hulk. I haven't seen Hulk in so long, and even though he's still fantastic, he's kind of been losing favor just because of all the random cards that have been coming out as the sets progress. But here we see them starting off, and I'm really interested to see how they want to go, whether we see those early kobolds or he decides to dip into something else.
Well, it's interesting without PXG, without a polymorph, he's going to have to work to get that Hulk out.
Oh, most definitely. Without the free ramp just all day, every day that PXG is going to provide for you, dice are in a little bit more of a little bit more demand. Though Kobold can help with that, it may not be the good idea to go for him, especially because you've got that Black Widow Serena just waiting there, hoping to be purchased, brought out, and just constant aggression brought out. With distraction, you can have a constant tax, and so it's going to be interesting to see what we see the energy being spent towards. And with sidekicks on the field, that's always a good thing, just sequestering them away.
And there goes the first purchase of that Formerly Weapon 10, using Blue Eyes to throw it in his use pile.
Feel free to ignore everything I've been talking about. We're going straight into Wolverine. Hot dang. Against a distraction team that may not be the best since a single mask kind of negates that, but if you can squeeze it through on a turn without, it's just going to be so powerful. It's that big, stompy die. I'm not sure what's going to be going on since there's no Relentless, but actually, I see Hulk out, so that it might be an Overcrush Wolverine. I don't think we've seen that with Formerly Weapon 10 before.
Well, and if he's tacking alone and he's hulking that guy out, he's hitting him for some big damage. But like you said, that one single mask is going to negate that pretty quickly.
That's the one bad thing about not bringing any sort of protection. And as I say that, I suddenly noticed Doom Caliber Knight, so I need to really get on the ball here. Doom Caliber Knight is perfect for making sure that you can't be distracted, and if you can apply that Hulk out before you're attacking, you're already knowing that you're not going to be pulled out of the line, and you're already attacking with that one die, so it doesn't really matter holding on to that Overcrush like you normally would to play during the attack step.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some forced attack, forced block, and with the Doom Caliber Knight, some protection from both of those things right now.
I am interested to see that Morphing Jar coming out, especially since there is no Professor X on the field. It looks like it's just going to be a cheap body, or specifically for distraction energy, since there's not really a whole lot else you could do with it. And the other mask being held in reserve, I'm not sure what's going on with that. It might just be kind of a waste, since he had nowhere else to put it and didn't want to stack his deck with Morphing Jars.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't just go ahead and buy one more Morphing Jar, or at that point go with, I think he had the energy to just buy 2 Widows. I don't remember what his third die was that went up there.
Either way, we still see a lot of energy being played on both sides. I'm surprised we're not seeing sidekicks fielded, since without PXG in the game, fielding those sidekicks is going to keep you churning, keep you pumping through your deck, making sure you're drawing into all those tasty characters and action dice you're purchasing. There's no kobolds either, and while those might be coming out later, it's still weird, especially since there's no Human Torch out, which can clear those out really well as well.
And there we see the purchase of 2 of those kobolds and 1 Hulk out die.
Oh, that's a pretty interesting purchase. It's nice to bring Hulk out since you can basically pay for that with anything. If you don't get the right energy, just 2 energy, immediately spent, Hulk out, no problem. And with the extra kobolds, that's going to be even more fist energy. If there is no distraction on the turn that he gets his Overcrush going, he can even toss some Cone of Cold on there using the Goblin Attack Force Global, but that's going to be heavily reliant on what sorts of energy his opponent holds in reserve. Oh, hang on, we are seeing a misplay. There is no PXG on this field. We are seeing just exactly why that mask was held in reserve. So we're going to give him a second to kind of take another look at the board, roll that back, and we'll resume from there.
Well, and I think that speaks to a lot of what happens in these games where you just assume that the thing that is always there, PXG, is going to be there, and when you can't always expect your opponent to bring it with you. All right, so he's going to rewind his thoughts here and not do much of anything with that mask, it appears.
I think it's for this reason alone that we really should be looking at Professor X's place in the game. When certain players just naturally hold those masks, just automatically assuming that Professor X is going to be somewhere on the board, what's that really telling you about Professor X's role in the game, that everybody plays to the extent that it's just a natural, it's a given. There's no questions asked. There's just going to be a PXG on the board somewhere. And I just, that kind of makes me sad to see, but that is the game we are playing.
Well, and it's interesting, I think, you know, when you look at your different scenes, when you look at your local scenes, so for example, we have a constructed meta coming up on Saturday, and I would bet that out of the 12, 14 people that will be there will be less than half that bring PXG. I think people are learning to play around it, to play without it. And I like that. I like seeing that as positive. It definitely has a place, but I like seeing people being creative without it.
At the very least, you can always go to a draft, since unless you're drafting UXM, there's no chance of Professor X being brought to the table. But even then, you see a lot of the very standard Resurrection, Villainous Pact, Ramp Globals being brought just because everyone's addicted to those energy. And while I can understand it, I'm starting to really look at how that really functions as an advantage to you if you're bringing globals for both you and your opponent, since you are wasting your slot in order to take that into the field with you, whereas you're probably not going to be getting an advantage because your opponent's using it just as much as you. So I'm starting to look at that, so it's just something that you want to pay attention to, and I'm hoping more people start having a look at what exactly they want to be building into their teams, whether they want those ramp globals that are going to be benefiting their opponent and not giving them an advantage, whether it's worth the slot.
Yeah, you never want to bring that that global. It's going to end up biting you in the butt in the end. And we see a lot of people staring at across the other side of the table and not paying attention to what their opponent has. And before you know it, you go, oh, I guess I brought you a weapon. We see that with Professor X. We see that with magic missiles. We see that with Hulk outs if you're not careful. Distraction.
At the same time, I'm also really loving the Kobold inclusion on the classy Wolverine team, because that's pretty much the exact antithesis of Professor X. It is one-sided ramp in the best possible way. It's something that you do have to invest into. It's not just a given. It's not an automatic reaction, but if you can set it up and your opponent doesn't have any way to counter it, it gives you a heavy advantage in terms of ramp and the kind of energy you can get going. So I really want to see Kobold expand even further than he already has. With Human Paladin lurking in the eaves, I suppose that's not always going to be an option, but it's still something I'm looking forward to, and that was a roll if ever there was one.
Yeah, I think Jordan got exactly what he wanted there. That was ideal. I know he's looking at what he's got, but I'm gonna assume we're gonna see a widow and a torch hit the field here in just a second.
Oh, fingers crossed. I mean, there's not a whole lot else you do with that roll. That's pretty much perfect in every sense of the word. That's going to clear off a sidekick, start dealing damage, a minimum of 3 if he wants to go for it, and that's going to be control of the board. Like, I don't see how his opponent can really keep his defenses going if he just keeps hammering in with that Serena. He got it out early. He got it out when he needed it. And unless we see the Wolverine start overcrushing into his opponent, we are maybe going to see heavy control just from that single Human Torch for the rest of the game.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't know what he's got on his side of the board to start tinking away unless he can get that Hulk out to get the torch off the board.
We see that free Black Widow burn, and this is all really extra funny from my perspective because I've been playing with Jordan just before this, and he has not been able to roll Human Torch all night. So seeing it coming out perfectly right there was just gold for me. So I'm really happy to see that hopeful fire actually coming onto the board. That's exactly what he wanted to be doing, and with that extra Serena damage, this is going to be pretty painful for Tado going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big 6-point move there for Jordan, so we'll see what the reaction is on Tado's end here.
2 dice, 6 damage. What more could you ask for? That's efficiency if ever there was any, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if we can keep that constant levels of damage going. There's no more Serenas in the bag. He's going to have to wait for another cycle, but he still has the option to pick up some more, and that could do really great things for him. The interesting thing to note here, though, is that kobolds actually have a weird tendency to counter Serena insofar as they are totally happy to donate levels to her all day, every day, because you're usually rolling a heck of a lot of them, and as you do that, you can keep ditching the ones that have fallen in levels and re-picking up the new ones, but oh, that is a painful roll.
Ouch. Yeah, not...
Losing the double energy faces specifically for the single energy faces, that's... While 6 damage for 2 dice is the epitome of energy efficiency, 4 energy turning into 2 energy is the exact opposite of that. So really painful roll. He still can get those kobolds, but what he does from there is pretty much anyone's guess.
Yeah, I was really hoping he was just going to keep those doubles on both and re-roll the 1 sidekick to just buy the Hulk outright. But that wasn't the case. So he's got 4 energy, and he can Blue Eyes once if he really wanted to.
But at this point, is that worth it? Like, what do you do with the extra energy? Do you...
The most he's going to be able to buy is the Doom Caliber Knight, which he doesn't need at the 5 cost.
Oh, considering he might actually want to knock out one of those sidekicks, pick up another Wolverine, and then resurrect. That would get everything cycling that little bit faster, so maybe it is worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting his right dice into his bag, especially since he already has 2 Hulk outs, having 2 Wolverines to go along with that might just be the perfect option for him.
Of course, if he did buy the Doom Caliber Knight, it is one that will be unaffected by the Human Torch's ability if he does get it out there active.
True, but it also can't be targeted with Hulk out, so it's just not really the best option for him. It's strictly for his global.
And he bought a Hulk.
How?
Yeah,
I'm not seeing the energy there.
I don't believe he had enough energy.
Okay. Once again, we're having a little bit of a rollback. Shouldn't be too difficult to set up, but you just got to pay attention to exactly what kind of energy you have going on there.
Alright, so the Hulk has re-entered his card, and Wolverine comes out.
Pulling a little switcheroo. It is exactly what I was expecting. Wolverine, we've got 2 of them, plus 2 Hulk outs, so it's the perfect ratio. We got that resurrection, prepping another die, so we're going to see 6 dice being rolled next turn. One of them is guaranteed to be a Hulk out. One of them is guaranteed to be a Wolverine, considering there's one in the bag already, so we could see a pretty damaging turd coming forward from here. No amount of Human Torch is going to keep that Wolverine from swinging in for massive damage if it can get that single Overcrush face on the Hulk out, and with not very many characters on the board for defense, there's going to be very little way that Jordan can really soak that Overcrush damage since he has no way to distract. He doesn't have defensive dice right now, and I think that's going to be his one big issue going forward, even though he does have board control.
Well, let's see. He's going to, well, if he can get that morphing jar up to his third level, add 3 for him, which is, I mean, it's not a lot, but it could give him just that little bit of extra soak he might need.
Yeah, I guess the question is, do you even bother blocking Wolverine? With so many Hulk outs running, I think you maybe just let him through. Fielding that morphing jar is going to take another point off his life and prep the last sidekick. And with the characters on the board, that's another 6 damage he could deal. The question is, does he want to turn in? I think that keeping the Human Torch on the board for now is definitely going to be the better idea. And by letting that Wolverine through, he's still going to maintain the ability to control the board, cost his opponent a lot of energy in the process, and still have a chance at just crushing his opponent just with damage every single turn.
Yeah, absolutely. So he picks up a Hellblazer, and I assume he's going to field that morphing jar for free. Now, does he hold on to the 1 energy just on the chance that if he doesn't get the fist to get the Doomcaliber Knight, he still may be able to distract a hulked out Wolverine?
Oh, most definitely. It's always nice to have that option, just waiting in reserve. We did see a character fielded, so he has to apply that damage somewhere. Probably going to be on the sidekick, but we have to kind of wait to see how he wants to put that. And the real question is whether or not his opponent manages to get the right combination of dice in order to go through and deal his damage right on into his face. Because we could see a maximum of 13 damage coming out of Wolverine if we see the right rolls. The question is that what's going to happen? We see a big roll coming in here. We've got all the requisite characters, and there is that Wolverine. We need to see Hulk out come onto an action phase in order to get the full usefulness there. Otherwise, a single chump block kind of stalls Wolverine out. But we could see a ton of damage coming in here with the right rolls. Even if that Wolverine stays on the board, he's still a threat for next turn. But no, we've got that Overcrush, which means he's almost guaranteed to be turning in for damage.
It looks like Tito is kind of contemplating his fielding here. We've got the 3 fielding costs here for Wolverine going up. That leaves him
I believe he holds the fist for the Doomcaliber and a Wild in order to Resurrection, just get extra dice for next turn since it can cost a lot to field Wolverine. Having the ability to get a few extra dice for that moment when he kind of comes out next time, maybe make sure that you can field him and pull off the Overcrush. It's pretty important.
Or if he's looking to remove that Human Torch off the board, he can Goblin Attack Force, pay that extra fist to force that Human Torch to block here.
Always a valid option. That is the lovely thing about Goblin Attack Force, is that not only does he function as a way to make sure your characters get blocked, but he also adds a little bit of removal in there. With the force to block, just as you called it, we are going to make sure that Wolverine sticks on the field, does a ton of damage and removes the character, and is just all around a value play. And that's the kind of momentum swing I'm looking for in this game. Tito is back in it, and he is in it to win it with a whopping 10 damage right to his opponent's face. That's more than half his current life, half his total life. That's just not a blow you can take lying around. And with more Hulk outs in the bag, we could see lethal possibly next turn with poor rolls on the other side.
Absolutely. That okay, so he's blocking with both. No, he just he can't distract Torch.
We're seeing a little bit of a misplay here. He's trying to distract Torch, but distraction can only be used on attackers. That is kind of the key wording there. And while he would have loved to be able to hold on to his Torch, leave him in the board, he does kind of have to pay the ultimate price here. We could see a double block to reduce that to 19, but I think having the character in the board is a little bit more value. It would seem that Jordan disagrees with me, but that is kind of up to the individual pilot of the team. Maybe he wants that extra fielding ability, so could be worthwhile nonetheless.
So that big Wolverine swings in for 9 points of damage, clears out his field. Now he will have the opportunity, of course, to reroll Torch, reroll the Morphing Jar. We should see a few more. I don't know, does he have anything else in his bag at this point, character-wise?
He does not
He does
have
not.
anything else in there, and the great thing about that play is that Wolverine survives because he gets +4/+4 for attacking alone. No, we gotta put that Wolverine back in the board. He doesn't go to prep. He has +4 to defense. Most people just think of that little attacking alone bonus as offense, but he does in fact get the +4/+4, meaning that he's also really tanky and hard to remove no matter what. Even multi-blocking and overcrushing Wolverine is not going to help you.
Yeah, I was on here playing a guy late last night, and that was the mistake that was continuously being made on his end was, not just his attack. Like, nope.
Surprise.
No, he gets a big, beefy body all around. He is a dangerous attacker for that 4-cost fist.
That's sort of the trade-off you get between Wolverine formerly Weapon 10 and Wolverine the Best There Is. Wolverine the Best There Is costs a little bit extra, has a much higher damage potential if you're running an Overcrush setup, but at the same time he doesn't get that tankiness that Wolverine gets, and he kind of relies on Overcrush in order to get his job done. So picking Wolverine formerly Weapon 10 in this setup is clearly the better option, making sure that he gets the early purchases, getting him out at the right time with the right dice, and making sure he stays on the board for just a really big character that's going to sit around doing work the entire game.
All right, so he managed to roll 3 character faces. He's going to deliver 2 points of damage here to Wolverine. If he could just come up with a couple more.
It would be nice to at least attack in and spin him down, since that's 2 damage potential off of Wolverine's Overcrush, and tacked on to a little bit of blocker intervention. That's going to mean that he is able to effectively block, and so that's what I'm hoping happens, is that Black Widow actually attacks in. He holds on to the mask for distraction, since we may not see a fist rolled on Todo's side, but it's up to Jordan to see kind of what he wants to do with his board. He's got options, but none of them are great options. He would be able to pull off a ton of damage here if that Wolverine wasn't kind of clogging the field, but that's just not really an option. We're really lucky that Todo didn't bring along Relentless, otherwise we would see a whopping 10 damage here, which could have been lethal, but the question is, does he trade his Wolverine for that removal on Serena? I don't think he does. I think having her on the field is more value, even in its reduced attack state.
Yeah, so he's spun down that Wolverine, and he's...
Okay, there we go. That is that very aggressive play. He's distracting his Black Widow. He wants her available for more swings next turn. He wants to make sure he can actually get lethal when he decides to finally cash in, and that's also going to give him more blockers in order to kind of protect his field. The problem is that means that he does not get the Doom Caliber Knight Global being forced out of his opponent, and so now his opponent has access to the Cone of Cold Global for heavy pump on any Overcrush characters he can get. If we see a Wolverine rolled to a double fist side alongside a Hulk out overcrushing Wolverine swing in for already 10, we could see game here, and I'm really hoping that's what happens. Let's see if they spot lethal. Just a quick calculation, we would get 16 damage coming off of that one Wolverine, which is not quite enough with those 7 defense, so even as it stands, it's not quite enough to pull off game, but it would be darn close. Then again, it would kind of pass out his entire field. It's really a question of what he wants to do with the energy that he has.
Right, and I don't know if he's going to reroll that Wolverine. I feel like I would go in with the that Cone of Cold Global, the Hulk out here, and force him to just block everything if he's going to.
I also really want to point out that this is one of those really key moments where the bursts on your action phase really matter. Hulk Out only gives the extra damage on 2 of its 3 action phases, and we see the single action phase that doesn't give the bonus damage, meaning that there's just not enough damage. If he could have pumped himself up to 17, there's 7 defense on the opponent's field. There is 10 for his life. That could have been lethal, but it's just not quite there. We see the Hulk Out swing going in, and now it's just up to his opponent to block how he will, and he has to effectively block with everything, otherwise he gets killed right here. So we just have to see what Jordan decides to put out in his way.
Yeah, he can't take it as it is. It's lethal. He can't single block because then he's going to pump the 3 fists from Cone of Cold in there.
If he's not blocked, it's 10 damage. If he is blocked, he immediately does the triple pump, turning it into 16 damage, so he has to block with everything. However, that also knocks out Wolverine, leaving his field empty, leaving Jordan at 1 health, but with an empty field, that may not be of that much import, since he could actually swing for lethal right then and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It all comes down to these last final turns, and I'm really psyched to see exactly how this plays out. Does Jordan spot that his opponent has lethal without all 3 blocks, or do we see a sort of partial block? Do we see a full dedication to the block? We're only seeing Human Torch right now. He's got to move those other characters. He's got to do it. Is that only Torch? Todo is asking if he has that lethal in hand.
Oh, there we go.
No, he's calling it there. He called it. Those are his only blockers. 16 attack on that Wolverine versus 6 defense from the 2 defenders. Oh, that is crushing. He was so close. He had the extra blocker, but he held it in reserve thinking that he could survive the turn, and he wanted to make sure he had it available for next turn when he could hopefully swing in for that 11 damage. He just didn't spot the lethal. And Todo has called it. That is GG, folks. We have seen the damage coming out of that Wolverine, formerly Weapon 10, in an Overcrush strategy of all things. Like, that is not something you see.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed seeing formerly Weapon 10 Overcrushing. I mean, he's got the body for it. Why not? And that Cone of Cold with those Cobalts coming in for the fist, that was just a great, great play.
It's a really smart, really interesting setup. It's got that heavy fist focus. It's got the real synergy from all of its cards. I like seeing it all come together, and it really paid off for him. He had the strategy. It did work, and that was GG. So let's get our players into the call, and we'll see what they thought about the matchup.
Yeah, great game.
Great game, folks.
Oh, most definitely. I was really impressed to see you running that Wolverine combo. Most people don't use Wolverine with any sort of overcrush, and I really liked seeing that. Like, most people will try to get unblocks, and you went for something special, and it really paid off in a spectacular way. So I've got to ask, what was the real key principle you had in mind when building this team?
Well, my last teams are Relentless one, yes, that's unblockable, but I'm getting some wipeouts from guys here in the vessel, so I try to change it. Shadow Mel just give me some chips too, and I think it's more reliable the Overcrush one, because your character get back to the field, and it's a life save for 1 turn maybe.
Yes, that's exactly what Vassal is for. Getting to know your team, finding out how it plays out in matchups, getting tips from other players available. Yeah. Speaking of the good doctor giving you tips, we did see the Beast Nefarious Geneticist on the other team, kind of as a jokey inclusion, and it was really funny, but of course it wasn't played in this really heavy, fast meta team. I'm curious, what would you say was the moment that you really took control of the game and started winning?
Well, when I see that the opponents do not buy several characters, I think that will be a a board with a few players, a few characters. So I decided to pop Wolverine with all the Overcrushes and my Kobolds. I think that was a game, and my Kobolds and the Overcrush with Call of Cold. Guys, did you hear me?
Yes, sorry. The strategy clearly
sorry, just ask you for pardon for my English. It's not too good, but I think I can communicate as well.
Don't worry about it. You're totally fine. I was giving Isaac a sec to see if he wanted to step in there, but it's fine. Don't even worry about it. We're totally okay.
Yeah, I think the early swing that Jordan hit on you, I was a little concerned with where that was going, but man, did your Hulk outs and your Wolverines line up exactly where you wanted them? And did you bring the Doom Caliber Knight with learning that as you went, or was that one of your first pulls for this team?
Well, the Doom Caliber wasn't in my team. I forgot to switch it. But it's nice when the opponent brings distraction. So the Doom Caliber is here just to avoid the distractions.
No, most definitely. It's one of those clear, heavy counter cards, and it really does its job against distraction.
Yeah, no, I think you played out your moves perfectly. You waited for what you needed there, and you got the 2 block instead of the 3 that you needed there at the end. So it just goes to show this game ends a lot of times with doing that math. I mean, making sure you are certain with your attacks, making sure you know all of your options before you take your fingers off of the die. And I think you played it out very well.
Oh, thank you. Really, here at Vessel, I'm trying to play a lot of matches without the PXG because I think the PXG it's kind of little for me too and help the opponents. So I'm really trying without PXG just to make sure I can run in these teams without it.
Well, it's always great to see PXG being cut out of teams. Like I was talking about early in the match, I'm really looking forward to seeing a meta evolve, maybe get away from that a little bit, and seeing that play out in this match shows that clearly games can still be really fast, really hard, really punchy, and work out just the same without the good doctors. So that made me very happy to see.
Yes, listening as Shadow Meld tipped me out, they advised me to do not buy a lot of characters. I think that's a good tip to not buy every time you got an energy you need to spend it. It's good to lose the energy but not buy too much characters. I think that's a good tip.
Most definitely. Let's get a word from our other player, Jordan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really interesting match. I saw some.
I'm talking too much. Sorry.
You're fine, really. I saw some really interesting characters on your side. The strategy was definitely solid. Human Torch is always a great inclusion. I want to know, what was the idea behind your team building this?
Well, a big part of my team was being able to field lots of characters and just ping my opponent using Johnny Storm, and then hopefully slowing them down a bit with just the low-cost characters using Beasts to be able to purchase more than I get the energy for. And, yeah. So basically just to buy a lot.
Okay. And while you definitely had a really strong early board presence by getting that Human Torch out early, what would you say was the moment that things started to kind of slip away? Because clearly that Overcrush kind of hammered you home near the end there.
Well, you know, I think that the turn that I chose to purchase the Human Torch, which was very early on in the game, actually hurt me a lot because that's when my ramp broke, and I was constantly having to use the energy that I was rolling to field my guys, so I wasn't able to buy very much. You'll notice I only got 1 Morphing Jar, 1 Tsarina, and I also wish that I had purchased a Hellblazer a little bit earlier against the Wolverine. And I think that would have helped me a little bit more in the game, because then I just became desperate to even field anything.
It got to the point where you were kind of dumping your field to block the Overcrush basically as fast as it was coming out.
Right.
Let's give Isaac a sec to get back into the call. He had a little bit of a drop there, but
Yep, I'm good.
you're back? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let's have you take the next question.
Yeah, Jordan, I liked this team. I'm kind of curious from playing this. Have you had a chance to try this out on Vassal? I heard you played a little bit earlier tonight, and what do you see as your next evolution on this team?
Well, I think that the Blue Eyes may be unnecessary because I already have a lot of low-cost characters, but it does help while not having a PXG to get my Human Torch early on. So I might try to see something that would make my ramp gain a little bit more assistance, but not necessarily PXG, even though that is something I might be leaning towards, even though I know the guys at Vassal don't necessarily enjoy that card. But it might just be something I look at, and I am thinking about switching out Morphing Jar with the Kobold that actually my opponent's using, because that will also help with my dice draw, so I constantly am getting more to add on.
Yeah, I think those are some great ideas, and hopefully you get a chance to implement those and see how the team rolls out from there.
Yeah, thank you.
Just as a personal note, I highly recommend Kobolds. Johnny's Swarm is always a fun strategy. Kobold is that sort of one-sided ramp that I am so in love with.
Yes.
I cannot say enough about it.
See, guys, a friend of mine have a huge Swarm team, and I think that's a good character to know. They were the 7 costs from EVX. Just a minute. They were Colossus. Yeah, that's a huge meta. You can field it and at final turn and give me a lot of damage. I think it's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh, no kidding. I've seen Colossus with a K in action. It was pretty nasty.
Yeah, we've got a certain gentleman behind the scenes of these videos that thoroughly enjoys his Colossus cards. So, yeah, I've seen how beat sticky that can be. That's a clock and that's a timer you got to be ready for.
Yes, my friend gained a lot of championships with that meta, with that cards.
Well, this was a really great game. I really enjoyed seeing these characters. The entire lack of PXG always tickles my fancy a little bit. We got to see the classiest of Wolverines, not your average everyday Wolverine, not your overcrushing the best there is, not your unblocked Wolverine formerly Weapon 10, but no, we got to see overcrushing formerly Weapon 10, and that is not something you see every day. It's these interesting strategies that are what Vassal is all about, and we got to see it perfectly executed. The hopeful Fire team had a little bit of a bonfire, a little bit of a spark there in the early game, just not quite bringing it home, and it was still a great effort. We had the board control there. We may have seen some different plays depending upon how the rolls went going into it, but I was really happy with this match. I think a lot of great cards and plays went out, so congrats to both our competitors.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, great game, guys.
It's fun playing with you guys.
It's fun.
Thank you all for watching, and have a great day, everybody.
Opa, waiting to see.
Yep, see you next time.
See you.
All right, can you go ahead and Necro, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Go ahead and say the thanks for watching again, but do the be sure to subscribe. Be sure to check out the reserve information about all your information at Dice Masters about Dice Masters at thereservepool.com.
Is there some sort of script for that? I don't.
Well, I sent you a quick thing on the.
Oh,
it was very,
I wasn't looking at that.
Yeah,
Please hit like and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. Just something along those lines. If you can just give me a quick soundbite of that.
I hear you, just to make sure it's in the recording.
Yeah, exactly.
You can edit it in wherever.
Yep.
Thank you all for watching. Just be sure to subscribe, maybe like the video, and you can check out all the Dice Masters information you'd like at thereservepool.com. It's a really tight-knit community, a lot of really friendly posters going on, so give it a check. Maybe you'll find something you like.
Perfect. All right, cool. Thank you, guys.
Cut, print. That is a wrap.
Awesome.
Thank you both for coming on. Like, I had a really great time. I think that was a really, really good episode. I liked how that played out.
Yeah, me too. And I hope that maybe I'll be able to catch you guys again. Maybe come with a more unique team. I don't know.
Oh, definitely. Like we get on semi-irregularly. We're trying to get into a little bit more consistent